Right, so Donna Jones is the Hampshire Police and Crime Commissioner, and she's a Conservative. She's there on the line now. Donna, thank you so much for joining me. So first of all, let's talk about the police force, because a lot of people seeing all these different things happening. You had that awful murder, which was done by a serving police officer. You've had the Oldham situation as well. There are so many things that are putting people off. And now we hear in some places, in one place in particular, not even a single burglary being solved. Do you think that the police force is actually an appealing career at the moment?
I still really do. And actually, there are many police forces across the country who are not struggling to recruit people like the Metropolitan Police are. Policing provides a fantastic opportunity to really specialise if you want to. For example, working in online frauds and scams. If you are somebody who's drawn to data and someone who really likes to process that kind of online and keeping up with technology, or if you like to work with the public, of course, neighbourhood policing. And of course, we have specialisms, particularly my force, Hampshire Police, also buddied with Thames Valley. We have police horses, we have police dogs, if you love working with animals. But ultimately, people go into a career in policing, whether that's as a police officer or as a member of police staff, because they want to help people and they want to give something back to their community. And let's not forget, you've also got a pretty good pension too.
That's great, and I'd love that. But you say it's great, but only 6% of crimes actually end up being solved, as far as we saw with the last sort of figures that I read. And also, there's been things like misogyny and all these different things in the force, and it just seems to be a little bit of an off-putting profession. I hear you, but why would anyone want to join the police force under all this? Do you think there needs to be change?
Well, Nana, I completely do accept the points that you make. And I think policing has been through the mill and back over the last 18 months, 2 years, particularly with those horrific incidents from London that we did hear about from, over the last couple of years, and those tragic tragedies of women suffering at the hands of police officers. This has undoubtedly had a knock in confidence in trust in policing. I think that, that's absolutely, there's no way that anyone can disagree with that. And I do think that British policing has got some way to go now to really repair that trust and confidence, and to acknowledge that actually a number of the things that have been going on across the country, but very much centred around the Metropolitan Police, are not acceptable. But what we also need to remember are there are hundreds of thousands of people working for British police forces today that are absolutely, upstanding members of the public, just the right kind of people that should be working in policing. And they feel as aggrieved as you and I do about some of the atrocities that have happened by a very small number of police officers. So yes, it's right that this is acknowledged. There's no point in hiding away from that. But do I think that it's effective recruitment? No, I don't. In my own police force, our share of the 20,000 National Police uplift is 498 officers. We will hit our target in September this year. That is nearly 6 months ahead of the target by the end of March next year, of March 23. Now, I want to go above and beyond the government's target. I have found the money to, in fact, recruit 600 police officers. So to go 102 over and above our target. We are not struggling to recruit people in Hampshire Constabulary. The reason being, we've got an excellent wellbeing package. We are a well-rated constabulary. We give people the opportunity for promotion. We listen to staff feedback. And, as Police and Crime Commissioner, I have an open door policy for any member of staff from Hampshire Constabulary to come and speak to me at any point. And they do. And they give me some great ideas on how we can improve things and change them. But that's not to take away from the fact that there have been issues. But I really think that one force, albeit the largest force in the country, does not necessarily reflect all of the other 42 police forces in the country.
Okay, well, I just want to bring back that 20,000 recruitment figure, because the same 20,000 people, and that is great. But what worries me about that is they might end up compromising the quality of the applicant. So, for example, in the case of Wayne Couzens, where he actually had certain convictions that if they'd actually done a bit of research, they could have found out that he wasn't probably the right sort of candidate. And my worry is that they're just trying to get more and more people doing it, but they're compromising on the quality of the candidates. Is that a concern for you?
In part, yes, it is actually. And I think whenever you have an amount of volume recruitment in one go, of course, it does put your recruitment teams, your training teams, it puts everybody under pressure. And there is no doubt that backfilling the reduction in police numbers over the last decade all in one go is not also therefore going to create problems for, recruitment, in years to come when the officers that have been recruited throughout 2020, 21 and 2022 and the beginning of 23 then retire and leave in 30, 35 years time, whenever that may be. Now, I've been with Minister Malthouse, Kit Malthouse, the policing minister, for this morning, for half the day today, talking about a number of different crime issues. And actually, he and I are both absolutely committed to making sure that in this patch in Hampshire, but actually across the country, we have quality police officers recruited. There is, new vetting processes being considered now, and it's right and proper that through the government an inquiry has been launched to look at what happened to enable Wayne Couzens, who had a questionable time when he worked for the Civil Nuclear Division and Policing, to then move into the Met Police and be put in the position he was of having a warrant card and abusing that on the streets of London. So there is an inquiry going on. Yes, absolutely mistakes were made, and that's why it's right and proper that the government, has an independent review to make sure that the vetting process is updated if it needs to be, and that these things can never happen again.
And I wanted to just touch on the fact that I thought now to be a police officer you have to have a degree. Is that still the case? And if so, why?
Yes, the Home Office made, or through the Home Secretary and the Policing Minister, Kit Malthouse, as I mentioned, made a decision going back almost 3 years ago now that they wanted to professionalise policing. They really wanted to give graduates the opportunity, but also for those that are coming into policing that are not graduates, to have the opportunity to be on a level playing field with their colleagues and to have that police degree. It's called the PEQF. Now, there has been some controversy around it. There have been chief constables who really don't like the police degree. They prefer the older 16-week core training for police officers. The police degree takes 2 years. And what it means is that for 30% of year one and 30% of year two of the officer's time, they are spent in the classroom learning, writing essays and doing the things that, of course, you need to do to get that sort of qualification. Now, in my own force, it was brought in by my chief constable, almost 3 years ago. It's running. There is a mixed bag in terms of the response from probationers, as we call them, student officers. Some really liking it, those that are already graduates, but some really struggling with it and saying it doesn't teach me how to be a police officer in the way I think it needs to be. It takes away from my time. I'm studying on my rest days. Of course, for me as a police commissioner, that is a concern. But those 3 or 4 forces that had held back from introducing PEQF have now been told by the government in the last 2 weeks they are going to need to continue, and they are going to need to introduce the police degree.
Well, see, with people like you, Donna, I think you'd inspire anyone to join. Donna Jones, thank you very much for joining us. She's the Hampshire Police and Crime Commissioner. She's a Conservative as well. Right.